Hmm. Let's see. Are we good? It's a little difficult to tell. Okay, it seems pretty good. All right. Two things. One, starting off a debate with a PowerPoint presentation is probably a poor move, all considered. Oh shit, is my stream frozen? Oh my god. Hang on. This is like my first time streaming on this and it's super ghetto. Have I fucked up? Did I fuck it all up? Oh no. Is it over already before it started? My streaming career, it's gone. Shit. Yeah, I'm just like a frozen dude hitting a vape pen. Fuck. How do I fix that shit? Bro, why did my webcam freeze? Why? This shit, same shit happened during the debate. My webcam just like froze. We deactivate, we reactivate, we see if that fixes. I was reading the chat during the debate when I disconnected. So like my Zoom just froze, and everybody assumed in the chat, because of course they're all morons and they want some epic beatdown, because politics is pro wrestling to them. They just assumed I ran, like I rage quit, and it's like I was like the most frustrating shit because I had to like restart my computer. I don't know why. My Zoom was frozen. Very inconvenient timing. Okay, do I just need to replace my webcam entirely? It's been a while since I've been in the game. What's going on, webcam? Holy shit! Oh, okay. Number one issue. Never mind. I said two issues at the beginning. It's actually one really big one. I'm technologically illiterate, and my shit is like from the Cold War. Let's see if we can get this working now. Reactivate. Come on. Get on. Turn on. Turn on, bitch. Okay. So recently having a conversation with Andrew Wilson. Oh, this doesn't look like it's going to work. Bro. 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 Activate. Are we going to work? Oh. Are we working? Good night. Okay. Namaste, my friend. We are good. Okay, I'm going to assume we're actually good this time. All right. Had a debate on modern day debates. Uh, Firstly, he's a shit moderator. I don't know. I remember watching like the after thing at the end, and modern day debates is saying something to the effect of, "Well, there's just a dearth of lefty debaters. It's like they don't really come on the show. It's always the right wingers." And I'm like thinking to myself, like, dude, I spent 4 hours being strawmanned, getting called retarded, being made fun of for being fat, like any number of things that he's just like he doesn't do anything to STEM. So it's like, yeah, of course leftists don't debate. Like, look at your guests and how they treat people. Like, they're assholes. Um, but that was issue number one. Issue number two, aside from connectivity issues, is the structure of the debate question that we had to contend with. And that was the prompt: Are trans women women? This is a shit prompt that I had absolutely no say in. If I did have a say in it, I would have refined it to be a little bit more precise than that. Because the question of are trans women women is a fundamentally boring question because you don't do anything with it. Are trans women women? Well, that depends how you define woman. I define woman this way. So it excludes trans women because I define it this way. Oh, okay. Well, I define trans women this way. Okay, that includes trans women. Like, there's the end of the debate. And I was surprised when Andrew Wilson kind of like clocked that like immediately, instead of us walking down the line on this idiot like ontological question every step of the way. Yeah, we don't have to have that debate. It's a dumb debate. Now, Josh Steiner wanted to have that debate because that's the only debate Josh Steiner can have. He has absolutely nothing to say, nothing of substance. He doesn't have original thought in his head. Are trans women women? That depends how you would define women. The problem with the way you define women, if you look at women and you define them by, well, they have a set of ovaries, and they have XX chromosomes, and they have a uterus, and they have a vagina. Well, guess what, motherfucker? They're women who are born without all of these. People you would recognize any day as women. There are women with Swyer syndrome, where they have a chromosomal anomaly. There are women who are born without a vagina that has to be surgically created. There are women born with no ovaries. There's so many different ways that if you define women such that you can confine them into a box based on some biological feature that they have, you end up excluding people that you have no term for. These kind of peopleless people. Because if you're defining it by these features, well, then these people ain't exactly women. right? Somebody's born without a vagina. Are they a woman? What's the difference between the creation of a surgical vagina and a neo-vagina? It's just a really, really boring prompt to have a debate about. And the more interesting one to have the debate about is just what do you do with this category of people? This category of people we call trans people, trans women. What do we do with this category, right? We have to find some way to inculcate them into society. And Andrew Wilson and Josh Steiner have absolutely no ideas for how to do any of it. They showed up for a WWE pro wrestling match where they could say, they're the Macho Man Randy Savage of debate, right? They're not serious people. These are not serious actors. I had no idea who either of these clowns were going in. I got roped into this by Classy. I kind of had an idea as I was going through this, though. The debate, I kind of started to figure out, oh, that's that moron. Oh, that's that retard. The more interesting prompt is, what do you do with women that you call trans women, right? And that's a good debate to have. Do you include them in sports? I don't know. There's actually a lot of debate, a fair debate, to be had about what are trans women's places in women's sports. And you know what? That debate should be guided by research and evidence. We didn't get that debate. There's fair debate to be had about how much checks we have on trans women's access to gender-affirming care at young ages. That's a fair debate to have. That's a good debate to have. Should we require people to get second opinions? Should we require pediatricians to consult with therapists to affirm that a diagnosis of gender dysphoria actually is real and valid? We have to live in a world where we acknowledge detransitioners are a thing. So that's the debate I was showing up for. That is not the debate they wanted to have. So Andrew Wilson, from the start, and we could review it, but it's 4 hours of schlock. Andrew Wilson, from the start, opens on, you have no conclusive evidence, no conclusive data. And it doesn't matter how many times I say, I don't need this. That's not what I'm arguing. I don't need this. You don't need conclusive data. You don't have conclusive data that chemotherapy is going to cure cancer. What you have is best evidence, right? You got people with chemotherapy who undergo chemotherapy, and the data suggests that it tends to, I don't know what the technical medical term is. It deals with your cancer. We'll just say it deals with your cancer, right? It might not completely solve your cancer. There's people who go through chemotherapy that still die of fucking cancer. And, if I were to frame this argument from the way they did, you're mutilating your child with cancer. You're making them bald. You're tearing out their hair. You're making them vomit. Dude, it's so emotionally loaded because they don't have a logical way of approaching the prompt, right? And if they did, they would approach it honestly, which is why Andrew Wilson couldn't get off the there's no conclusive data argument. The only reason he would argue there is no conclusive data is because that's the only thing he can argue. And he had to put that argument on me a lot because it was the only way he could plausibly win that debate. I'm not arguing that there's conclusive data. No scientist ever conclusively states anything. He does not understand how science works, right? Nobody would conclusively say, I have data for X, Y, and Z. In the sciences, they don't do that, right? They hypothesize an observation, and then they do tests to confirm that observation, right? But nothing is ever conclusive. That's just not how the sciences work. If Andrew Wilson had any idea how the sciences work, he'd actually be doing science, right? He's a bullshit artist on YouTube. He's a shock jock with a YouTube channel. There's no conclusive data for God. The guy's there sucking Jesus' dick 24/7. All right, it's part and parcel for these kinds of conversations. It is just as plausible that Jesus Christ rose from the dead as it is that Muhammad rose to heaven on a winged horse. Which is to say, it's probably not plausible at all. But these people will still believe that. What it really comes down to is not science. They don't care about science. Their entire epistemological worldview is informed by religion. And Andrew Wilson is somebody who doesn't have an original idea unless it comes from some sort of religious big daddy. And it's really pathetic because these are the same people who call themselves Christian, but will trash the most vulnerable and lowest people in society. Andrew Wilson got a hard on every time violence against women was brought up because, it's a little suggestive. But Jesus Christ said, blessed are the meek, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven, right? And I can't think of anybody more meek than trans people with suicide attempt rates at what, like 30%, and suicidal ideation rates at like 50%. This is like an extremely vulnerable population. And I have a hard time believing that Jesus Christ, Lord and King Jesus Christ, would be taking Andrew Wilson's side in this sort of a debate. You know, calling them degenerate, right? Trying to segregate them from society. That's not Christ-like. That's not how Jesus would act. These people wear the aesthetics of Jesus Christ to give them some sort of legitimacy behind their bias. What Andrew Wilson is the product of fetal alcohol syndrome and a really fucked up childhood. I don't know what his relationship with his mother is, but I highly doubt it's a healthy one. Holy shit, and that guy said he has kids? I don't believe that guy has kids. That guy has rape babies. I don't believe that guy has fucking kids. I don't believe a woman would get within 200 yards of that fucking guy. That guy just gives off mad red flag creep vibes. But that's neither here nor there. I don't need to make any sort of personal attacks against them. I think my arguments could stand on their own merit. The medical organizations do support gender-affirming care. You've got the American Medical Association, which overwhelmingly finds that gender-affirming care, evidence-based gender-affirming care, tends to reduce suicidal ideation in trans youth, tends to reduce instances of anxiety and depression. And he might say, well, they're not the end-all, be-all. They're the most well-respected and highly regarded American medical association in America. But if that's not good enough, he wants to go onto some conspiracy road about how the AMA only exists to enrich doctors by undermining homeopathic medicine, which good. Homeopathic medicine is a bunch of bullshit. You know why? It's evidence-based, right? We have evidence-based shit to say it's bullshit, but that's neither here nor there. There's the American Pediatric Society, which says the same damn thing. There's the Endocrine Society, which says the same damn thing. There's the World Health Organization, which says the same damn thing. Andrew Wilson is a guy on the internet. I can believe the doctors who work for the World Health Organization, or I can believe the fucking guy on the internet. And unfortunately, this debate has been entirely defined for the purposes of imbecilic biases by the guy on the internet. Imbeciles will look at Andrew Wilson and will not understand that that is a retard's version of a smart person. Right? They will buy these arguments, and they are so dumb and so weak. And it's just frightening that nobody thinks. Let me put it this way. If you require a world where systems and doctors and institutions are in a collective conspiracy to undermine God, undermine Western civilization, whatever idiot thing they are choosing, and it's always some idiot thing. If you are this conspiracy brained, you are 2 steps removed from the Jewish question, right? Because you do not have the skepticism necessary to actually interrogate the way the world works. So you are likely to say, well, it's interesting that all the bankers really are Jewish. Have you noticed how Jewish Hollywood is? This is the path you walk down when you don't have any sort of an epistemic foundation to actually stand on. You get misled by shock jocks on the internet who don't have anything to actually contribute. The most telling part of that debate was when I asked Andrew Wilson, okay, let's assume everything you're saying is true. How do we treat trans people? He did not have an answer. Him and Hod, he went in 18 different directions before I finally got him to say, okay, yeah, I'm fine with trans-affirming healthcare if doctors give it in an institution. Which just leads to the question, why in a fucking institution? If they're going to get that kind of healthcare in an institution, they can get that kind of healthcare out of an institution as well. We're right back to square one. Andrew Wilson doesn't have a solution for treating trans people. They have a condition. They're hyper obsessed with calling trans people mentally ill, but they have no prescriptive solution for fixing or treating that mental illness. They just want to rage about the mental illness. So I don't know. It's it's usual memes. Classy. What can I say about Classy Liberal? He's adorable. he's cute. I like the PowerPoint presentation at the start of the debate. I just kind of wished, I don't know, he had something more to contribute. It was it's not his fault. I was like, hey, just let me take this at certain points. I was telling him in Discord. It was so frustrating when I had my disconnect, because then it was Classy alone, and Lord knows James ain't gonna moderate for shit, and these two are just piling up. So it wasn't exactly that even. James would occasionally step in and say, oh, we got to give Classy a chance to respond. I was like, oh, yeah, okay. You don't give a shit about that. Who the fuck you kidding? But The classy memes are as they are. Josh Steiner shows up at the debate lampooning trans people. I don't know. Dude, that motherfucker's in an egg. I don't know if that motherfucker actually isn't trans. But so he does this performative mockery of trans people where he shows up in a dress, right? And tries to say, well, should I be allowed in women's spaces? And it kind of begs the next question, like, motherfucker, why shouldn't you be allowed in women's spaces? Because the insinuation is that he'll rape women, which is like an automatic self-tell. I shouldn't be allowed in women's spaces. Look at me. Why? It's like, well, because he's going to rape women. That's the immediate tell. Like, that's the concern about trans people in women's spaces. If you have trans women in women's bathrooms, that they're going to be raping women, which is just a silly, silly proposition. There's no evidence for this to have ever happened. And if somebody wanted to rape a woman, they wouldn't need to wear a wig and dress to do it. And they're not going to be stopped by some law saying, birth certificate check at the door. They just go in. If somebody wants to commit a rape, they're going to commit a rape. I'm sure Andrew Wilson would know full well. What else did he have? He ran with the same fucking meme about, oh, you just think that men magically become women. He harped on that point I don't know how many different times, and it didn't matter how. Like, at some point I'm like, dude, you've been strawmanning me all debate. Do you even give a shit? And he just continued to do it. So, it's the fucking memes are just like it's just a wrestling match. The kind of blood sport beatdown. It's not conducive to good conversation. If anybody's actually interested in learning about this shit, this isn't the way you learn about it. The unfortunate thing about the positions people like me are stuck arguing on platforms like that is we have to spend our time explaining and they get to spend their time preaching. And you're a lot more effective when you don't have to explain anything. And when you're right wing, you have a very naive and simplistic view of the world that fits neatly in a box. There's only two sexes. There's man and there's woman, and you can't change from one to the other. Well, human genetic diversity is actually like crazy. Like I said at the start, you've got women with XXY chromosomes. You've got people with who develop with no ovaries. You got all of these things, which shows you that sex is indeed a spectrum. Now, it might be a polarized spectrum where there's, there is female, there is male. People congregate to the ends. That makes sense, right? It's not a 50-50 coin flip, though. It's a weighted coin that occasionally lands on its side, and that's where you get intersex people. And if you try to understand trans people as just an extension of an intersex condition, it makes a whole lot more sense. If man and woman is defined by their biology, then they're also defined by their neurobiology. They're also defined by their brain chemistry. And there's something in trans people, their brain chemistry, that is saying, hey, this sex doesn't tick with this gender, right? Something about the way they feel, their conception of gender doesn't mesh with their conception of sex. Okay, that is neurobiological. That is a consequence of certain chemical actions within their brains. So it stands to reason that a man must also be the consequence of neurobiology as well as biology. Same with a woman, as well as biology and neurobiology. But if you don't acknowledge anything mental, which they never do, these people don't believe depression is fucking real. I don't know how to deal with these fucking people. Dog, these people are like 2 steps removed from saying dinosaurs aren't real. I should have asked that question. I don't think they believe dinosaurs are real. But never mind that. If you cannot fit human beings into a neat little box, and you're conservative, you don't know what to do with that worldview, right? You rely on a priori pretenses like there's only 2 genders, and endless bullshit like that, right? And if you want to say that, all you're doing is confining you're keeping this box small and our world dumb, because now we don't have the language to describe all these people who don't fit into that box. Transgender people, you want to say this is what I said during the debate. You want to say transgender women are not women? Fine. They're not men. There's something else about them that does not make them men. They do not behave like men. They do not act like men. They do not dress like men. They do not identify as men. Something in their brain is different from what we would say men are. You don't want to say they're women? Fine. But all you're doing is making the process of language and its uses that much more difficult. Josh demonstrated this perfectly. He was hyper obsessed with never saying that trans women are women. Josh Steiner's retreat would constantly be saying they are trans-identified men. You know what would be a shorter way of saying that? They're trans women. it's like language serves no purpose. The world's not allowed to evolve. The world's not allowed to change. We have to waste our time. We have to waste our time talking to imbeciles. But I mean, back to my original thesis. This is the nature of this debate. If you go into this debate with the intent of never learning anything new, I was never going to convince you anyway. If you are actually persuaded, I don't know how many like dumbass like super chats I had to deal with. Like, what if my cat identifies as a dog? What if like a person identifies as a tree? What if I identify as 65 years old? Like stupid ass shit like that. If you come into this debate thinking these are good questions, I'm never convincing you, and it's a waste of time to even try. So. I don't know. The performative memes are like really all I can do. Like half the debate, they were like, "You just want to cut your kid's dick off," and it's like, "Yeah, okay, that's fine, whatever you say. I just want to cut my kid." Like this debate, they're so bad faith. There's no point in even engaging with this. Yeah, I just want to cut my kid's dick off. Andrew Wilson was asking at some point, like, "Are you okay with Blowjob Island, where the pedophiles get the kids to give them blowjobs?" And it's like, dude, I showed up to this. But I am content to have a rematch with Andrew Wilson. If we're going to do a one-on-one memery, I don't know if I'm going to have James moderate it because, he didn't bang up fucking job he did last time. But I am content to have Andrew Wilson on this and to more directly engage with the points he has without. It would be that much easier. One thing I noticed, Andrew Wilson interrupts a fucking ton. And if you do it back, he's very keen to tell you to stop interrupting. Moderator was very keen to tell me to stop interrupting too, which was like, hey, LSP, go take a breather. But it's like, motherfucker, this guy has been monologuing he would like monologue for like 4 minutes, 5 minutes. He would go on rants. And it's like, dude, just a simple direct answer would save everybody so much time. But if you're there for the WWE beatdown, this is, I guess it's par for the course. So, when you make a checklist of proper memes, I need to get my camera shit fixed. I need to work on that. It was up here. The arm for the camera literally broke, so it was resting on top of my monitor. Then I realized that's just like fucking close to my face, makes my screen bright, all that good shit. Not my good angle. So now I've just Velcroed it to the arm. It's so ghetto. Getting the partition screen behind my back. Need to upgrade my microphone. Need to do a whole lot of shit and actually like really get back into this. It's not necessarily that I need to avoid Bloodsport drama in the future, like any of this stupid memery, but I probably need to be a little bit more precise about getting back into it. The impetus behind this was simply that like Classy asked me if I could be his debate partner, and I was like, well, shit, I haven't been in the game forever. Might as well go in and make a ruckus. But holy shit, these guys are insane. Andrew Wilson's a legit lunatic. I'm pretty sure that this is the frightening thing when I talk to these guys. A guy who gets a hate boner about violence against women would definitely get one about violence against his kids. If he had a trans kid, he absolutely strikes me as the sort of person who would think beating the trans out of him is the method to go. These people kind of just want trans people to go away. And they're not. We're past that. Out of the closet door is open. Trans people exist. Now we have to figure out how we enmesh them in society. And these people, for some reason, are the grand cultural leaders of this conversation, but they have nothing to contribute. You could test this with Andrew Wilson. How do you treat trans people? How do you do it? He had nothing to contribute. Oh, well, never mind. Like, just think of how scary his answer is. We'll lock up all the trans people in an institution, and doctors will treat them there. Then when asked how, he finally is like, maybe I'm okay with gender-affirming care, and he had no fucking clue what to do. A government that can lock up trans people can lock you up, is the thing. If you want a big government daddy to police people's genitals for whatever reason that you're insecure about, yeah, they can do that. But they can do it to you, too. And that's just not the world I want to live in. These people are un-American. When I say, my position is about freedom and theirs is about control, I mean that. Because at no point in that was I suggesting that I force any of my beliefs onto them. In fact, I had repeatedly described them as perfectly entitled to whatever belief system they have. I will defend to death. You know, I might not agree with what you say, but I will defend to death your right to say it. Not necessarily to death, but I will defend to death your right to say it. The old Voltaire quote. Our system works because we've recognized that government being heavy-handed when it comes to individual rights produces negative results. We had a fucking revolution over this kind of thing. My position's about freedom, and that's the most fundamentally American position in that debate. The freedom to decide how your child gets his health care, yeah, that's a big fucking thing. The idea that the government can come in and tell you what kind of health care you can and cannot receive, your child can receive, is a bit of a frightening fucking proposition. I don't remember which fucking group it is, Jehovah's Witnesses, whoever it is against blood transfusions. Say we get say we get a Jehovah's Witness Congress. I don't know if it's Jehovah's Witnesses. I'm just going to pick on them anyway. But let's say we get them and they outlaw blood transfusions. Nobody's going to have an issue with that? We're sorry. Or bone marrow transfusions. Hey, we know your kid's got cancer. We know he needs his bone marrow. But hey, the science is inconclusive. You can't get the bone marrow transfusion. Is that the world you guys want to live in? And I was dead serious in my opening. Like, think about the world you wish to live in if you had a child who was trans. How do you approach that? If you take the Andrew Wilson route, all you're going to do is lead to more suicidal, depressed, and anxious people. You're going to collectively make the world worse for everybody. You're going to make healthcare more expensive for everybody. You're going to create a problem that never gets resolved. And why? Because he has a hyperfixation on people's genitals. And where does that come from? Probably daddy, but, the Bible. All right. In other memes, what have we to talk about? There is Bashar al-Assad's reign has come collapsing down, and glorious faction after like 2 weeks of an offensive. So that was cool. This whole thing starts, really, it starts when Bashar al-Assad becomes president, but that's another story. This whole thing starts with the Arab Spring in 2011. You've got these protesters who are calling for democracy reforms in Syria. Bashar al-Assad straight up murders them. Like, this starts because he tortures and kills like some teenagers who did anti-Assad graffiti. And that's how you get Free Syrian Army expats fighting against Assad. And that whole thing was a painful clusterfuck. I was explaining to my girlfriend the other day, like, you've got Bashar al-Assad in the Syrian Arab Army who's fighting against the Free Syrian Army, but they're also fighting against Jabhat al-Nusra, which is just Al-Qaeda, but they're fighting against the Kurdish Syrian Defense Forces, or the YPG, who are also fighting against Daesh, or ISIS. And then there's the Russian Wagner force. Like, this whole thing is a quagmire of, like, insane shit. You've got Hezbollah there. You have this whole area was just a quagmire rife with terrorism, human rights abuses, and it looked like it was never getting resolved, especially with Russia's backing. We put a red line, thanks Barack Obama, we put a red line on Syria a few years back about the use of chemical weapons. When they use chemical weapons, we should have organized police action in Syria directly. Because the longer we let that clusterfuck continue, the more destabilized the broader Middle East got. The refugee crisis that we had in Europe, that so many right-wingers were dead afraid of, what about the Islamophobia? That shit finds its genesis in the Syrian refugee crisis. It finds its genesis in the Syrian civil war. So does the rise of ISIS. ISIS tries to fuse with Jabhat al-Nusra in Syria, which is what causes their schism with Al-Qaeda, the Al-Qaeda Khorasan branch. They use their Syria, the turmoil in Syria, as a base of operations for their invasion of Anbar in Iraq. And then, like, think of the just unspeakable human rights abuses that ISIS committed against all the people. Village after village after village after village after village fell to these motherfuckers over months. And they were posting videos of beheadings and executions and mass slaughter everywhere on Twitter. The Spiker massacre happens. That shit is posted on Twitter as it is happening. And we took no action. We were that afraid of getting back into the Iraq war. So Bashar al-Assad has fled and he's gone to Moscow. His regime looked like it was going to stay in power thanks to Russian backing all the way up until like 3 weeks ago. And then just a surprise offensive by this group nobody had ever heard of. I shouldn't say nobody, but like, it's not on our Western world radar. Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, this offensive in Aleppo basically causes the dominoes to collapse for the entire government. Just collapse after collapse after collapse in such rapid succession causes Bashar al-Assad to flee. Now, the real worry is, what does the United States do about this? Because, hey, this is a good thing. He's gone. This is a window of opportunity for the United States to actually go into Syria and to reshape our relationship with Syria in a way that is beneficial and positive for the whole region. But Biden's not going to be president in about a month. Donald Trump's going to be president in about a month. And Donald Trump has basically said, we have no business there. The thing is, the last time Donald Trump said we have no business anywhere, he signed a peace deal with the Taliban that released 5,000 prisoners. The Taliban are a terrorist group. If his whole idea is we're not going to commit to doing anything to help the Syrian people, after all of this, all he is doing is surrendering ourselves to more headaches due to instability in the Middle East. This is not the actions of a leader. This is not, this is not the, Ronald Reagan would be rolling in his grave. It's weird I'm invoking Ronald Reagan, but Eisenhower would be rolling in his grave. Like, America was built as a leader of the free world with very valid pretenses. After World War II, there is a, with, not to shit on Reagan with the evil empire, there is a good versus evil. There is a liberal democracy side versus a horribly corrupt and abusive communist side. Not to say we're innocent. We definitely did a lot of fucked up shit during the Cold War. But there is a clear delineation in ideologies between these two. And after the Soviet Union falls, it's USA time, baby. But all we end up doing is just fucking it up time and time again. And it starts with George W. Bush. Afghanistan makes sense. It's a NATO police action against a terrorist group. Al-Qaeda's been a heel on everybody's side for forever. The war in Iraq was fucking stupid. And it didn't serve us really any immediate beneficial purpose to go into Iraq. Now, I'll grant Saddam Hussein, tyrant, genocidal dictator, absolutely should be taken out. But the method and manner in which we invaded Iraq was piss poor. We had no plans for an occupation phase. Our de-Baathification process just fired a bunch of Ba'athist Party officials, military-aged men, military-trained men, who are now suddenly unemployed because we were interested in remaking Iraq from the ground up. When you fire a bunch of military-aged, military-trained men as a Christian occupier of a Muslim country, you are fueling an insurgency. We fucked up. And that fuck up since has led, that's the first major domino to fall, has led to a series of unfortunate fuck ups. Now, consistently, these fuck ups come from Republicans. Consistently, our issues in this country are because of Republicans. We have this war in Iraq. It's a quagmire. That's fucking Republicans. The 2008 financial crisis, that's fucking Republicans, right? Democrats come in, let's fix Iraq. Democrats come in, let's pass the Recovery Act. COVID, the next big fuck up that we get to thank Republicans for. Donald Trump, it'll go away from the summer. The heat will kill it. It'll be like magic. No, it wasn't. Everybody had to stay home. It did ruinous things to our economy, and millions died. More than that, it led to this weird counterculture movement amongst conservatives who were so anti-establishment that they convinced themselves that vaccines were being the cause of all our problems. Millions, a million at least, people died in the United States who might otherwise be alive if they had the vaccine. Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands have probably been convinced not to take a COVID vaccine because of talking heads on the Republican side that might otherwise be alive if not for COVID. The Republican Party has blood on their hands. That's another fuck up we have to fix. There is the Afghanistan pullout that Joe Biden gets blamed for. You know, he comes in and it's a rushed pullout. They left all this shit for all these terrorist groups, yada, yada, yada. Dude, Donald Trump signed the peace deal with the fucking Taliban, did not invite the Afghan government at all, and released 5,000 Taliban prisoners. No fucking shit. It was a fuck up. There was a news story, I remember, that Donald Trump, after he lost the election, tried to force the withdrawal in like the final 3 weeks of his time in office. It was like insane. Like, it's just logistically insane stuff. And he basically gets told, dude, it ain't possible. We can't do it. So Donald Trump sets that deadline for our agreement to withdraw with the Taliban, an agreement we should not have made, months later when Biden's in office. Biden can't even do it in the timetable Trump established. He actually has to push back that window still, because it was clear that the Afghan national government was going to be falling. Why? Because we're not going to be supporting them anymore. We fucked up. So once again, there's another colossal fuck up that Democrats get to take the blame for that Republicans are responsible for. If it's the war in Iraq, it's the 2008 financial crisis, it's COVID, it's the pullout in Afghanistan. Consistently, every time there is some sort of major catastrophe in this country, it is the fault of Republicans. Every government shutdown in like my lifetime has been a consequence of Republicans. The debt ceiling debate led to a credit rating downgrade for the United States in the first time in United States history because of Republicans. The sequestration cuts were because of Republicans. The fiscal cliff crisis was because of Republicans. Even when they have majorities, they govern like belligerent minorities, and they never accomplish anything while they do it. Every single time, their fuck-ups cost the American people pain and suffering. Consistently. And they continue to be electorally rewarded for it. So, we're kind of in the midst of a media revolution as a consequence of the internet, and more people have microphones for which to talk to the public square than they ever have before. In the old days, you actually had to go to the public square and act like a buffoon. These days, not so much. As a consequence of that, anybody can put anything they want on the internet. They could say whatever they want on the internet. There's not really any checks for what they say on the internet. And the tech industry at large has basically abdicated doing anything about misinformation on the internet. And in this entire time, the Russian government has realized there's an opening for disinformation and misinformation on the internet. Dog, Tim Pool gets paid millions by the Russian government, doesn't ask questions, and gets to pretend that he's still some sort of an all-American pundit whose opinions we should respect. The dude is functionally a traitor to the United States. We've let Republicans hijack the brand of patriotism while sucking the dick of Vladimir Putin. So, I don't know. We're in some good memes over the next 4 years. And my idea is I'm going to start getting back into the game. I don't know if that means prepared content. I don't know if that means streams. I'm looking to probably stream a little bit more. I do need to fix my setup. I'm definitely looking to get into some debates again. I think I have a fair good ideas that I can contribute, and hopefully, maybe I could change the nature of the conversation. One thing I'm realizing is because the nature of everything has consistently changed, and Republicans continue to violate every norm possible and get away with it, there's no sense in keeping the gloves on in the name of protecting Western civilization from these motherfuckers. I'm now at the point where, dude, do the Republican shit right back, steal Supreme Court seats. I don't give a fuck. They're going to do that with Neil Gorsuch. Fucking do it right back. And same with these idiot fucking debates. We should strawman their positions. They have trans derangement syndrome. These are grown men who spend a lot of time thinking about the genitals of little kids. They're calling us the groomers? Bro, this motherfucker, Andrew Wilson's a motherfucking Catholic, right? We don't need to protect our kids from trans people. We need to protect our kids from fucking Republicans. Matt Gaetz is about to be attorney general. What's his thing? He had sex with not one, but two plausibly underage women. Okay? Then you've got Pete Hegseth and his sexual assault allegations. Then you've got Donald Trump, who was found liable for sexual assault. Democrats don't behave like this. Democrats just do not behave like this. Democrats consistently have to act like the adult party, and Republicans get to act like predators and get rewarded for it. So it's time we change the nature of the conversation about who is and isn't groomers. People who want to bring prayer back to school, who want biblically, driven lessons and curriculum, those people are the groomers, right? Science, critical thought, or inclusion be damned. Their hate for diversity, equity, and inclusion itself is a telling tale about racism. These people are not affected by DEI policies. DEI policies are not discriminatory against white people, right? The whole nature of diversity, equity, and inclusion is just that, to foster diversity, equity, and inclusion. And the only reason businesses want to do that is because diversity, equity, and inclusion gets them more money. Because you get more ideas from diverse people. Diverse people bring diverse ideas. Equity means all voices are considered. That's stuff that makes businesses grow. That's stuff that makes America the capitalist empire that it really is. That fuels our entrepreneurial spirit. That we foster enough innovation where we take ideas from everybody to collectively make this country wealthier. And every time we want to move forward, Republicans want to move us back. Donald Trump is proposing, like a 20% tariff on shit coming in from Mexico, Canada, and China? And everybody's complaining about grocery prices as a cause of inflation, which, again, you can lay the feet at Republicans who never treated COVID like a serious fucking issue. Like, Donald Trump's government flew back people who were exposed to COVID from Japan and China on a commercial airline. Republicans tried to keep schools open during the midst of a COVID crisis. The Republican Party committed a coup attempt. Thank you, Mr. Migraine. They committed a fucking coup attempt against our government, and they are rewarded for it. So, the memery aside, I think it's time to get back in the game. So, if any of you are, I got 4. I don't know how intently you 4 are actually watching. But the idea is I'm going to start streaming and doing debates again. I'm going to start networking again, reaching out, trying to contribute my voice to this. The world is an increasingly unstable and scary place. Half this country has lost their damn mind. A good chunk of them are convinced dinosaurs aren't real. I went to school with those people. I went to a fucking Christian school where we were taught that dinosaurs and mankind walked together. They did not. The Flintstones was not a real thing. Dinosaurs are 65 million years old. Human beings are about 100,000 years old. But that's what religion gets you, fool. Well, keep working, buddy. I appreciate you listening in. I appreciate all y'all listening in. Those of you who are checking in, I appreciate that. I don't know what more I have to add. Stream's been going on about 45 minutes. This was just a post-debate rant on the conversation I had on Modern Day Debates with Andrew Wilson and, who's that other nobody? Nicole. Josh Steiner. Fucking crazy people. Holy shit. But we do have an eventual one-on-one coming with Andrew Wilson. He's at least committed to it, and I'm at least committed to it. And I think we're probably going to host it on this channel. I don't know that I'm going to be going to a moderator like Modern Day Debates. I think I'm much more comfortable just having him on this channel to have a much more direct conversation where I can actually just write down what he says, address it without like some of the dumb shit Josh Steiner would say. Oh my God, that dude's got some head problems. I don't believe any of these guys are parents, right? Like Josh Steiner would constantly talk about like his wife and kids, being exposed to trans people. And it's like, dude, I don't believe you have a wife and a kid. I don't believe if you had a wife and a kid, I don't think your wife would let you dress up and act the way you do on the internet, because it's a giant red flag. It's suggestive about how you would raise your kid, right? You're emotionally unstable. You're kind of a bully. You're a crazy person. Like, do you really have a wife? Like, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Fuck, make fun of me for being fat. I'm secure enough in my masculinity. I don't have to make this shit up. Same with, holy shit, Andrew Wilson. That motherfucker gives off mad rapist vibes. But, it is what it is. Point is, we're going to be having a round 2 on this channel at some point. We're going to be talking about the nature of the world. I don't know what else to add to the conversation. There's the election memes. What else we got? Oh, the the United Healthcare CEO thing. It's kind of funny. I mean, it's kind of sad, but it's kind of funny. I think it speaks to a broader resentment, justifiable resentment people have towards insurance companies. But you shouldn't gun down people in the street. You shouldn't be terrorists. Apparently, this guy was a big fan of Ted Kaczynski, and I'm not surprised. But there's a neat parallel to be found with the Daniel Penny trial, I think, and the Luigi, that guy, and that they are both hailed as heroes from both sides of the respective political aisle, because both seem to target some sort of an aggravated class that society has troubles with. So for most Americans, it would be like, oh man, my healthcare in this country does suck. Most Americans would say, oh, it's the healthcare industry. But I think if you're like in New York, you'd say, yeah, we got a problem with fucking crazy homeless people. And you know what? We do have a problem with crazy fucking homeless people. But our solution to either of these problems can't be, let's go flirt with a chick like a retard, shoot the guy, and then get arrested in a McDonald's. Nor can our solution be, let's just strangle the guy to death who's acting a fool on the subway. We have to have a little bit better and more politically informed, concrete solutions to these things. We do need better access to mental health care. We do need more public housing that can accommodate homeless people. Like, all these things make sense to me. Wow, they was both coinciding at the same time too, right? Because the trial was just ruled. He was just found not guilty, right? Daniel Penny, which is wild. Here's the thing. You want to there's a difference between a headlock and a chokehold. And this guy's fucking military trained. He knows the difference between a headlock and a chokehold. That fool choked the dude out. Okay? And that fool was warned by somebody else, hey, why don't you ease up on the choking? He was told this. I don't know how the jury didn't find a guilty verdict on that. Other than maybe it's a little bit politically suggestive. Let's assume lethal force is justified because Jordan Neely? Yeah, Jordan Neely's acting a fool on the subway, right? He's making threats. He's saying crazy shit. This sort of shit happens. Let's assume it happens again. Are we content with the next person strangling that person? Let's say it happens a third time. Let's say it happens a fourth time, a fifth time. You're always going to have crazy fucking people on the subway. Is our solution every time, should our solution every time be strangle the person to death? And if we're going to go ahead and say that's justified, well, then would Daniel Penny have been justified if he shot Jordan Neely instead? If lethal force is justified because this fool is saying some crazy ass shit on the subway, why not shoot him? Why not? I'm going to tell you the answer why. Don't. It's bad optics. Yeah, but I guess I don't have much memes to add beyond that. Anyway, to those 3 of you who have tuned in, thank you for tuning in, or 3 or 4 of you. I appreciate your listening. I do plan to start streaming a little bit more regularly and frequently. I'm thinking on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday schedule. I currently work full time, so this would be like a second job if I were to do it. But I'm thinking 4 hours, at least 3 or 4 days a week would probably be good. Kind of reminds me of the Shinzo Abe assassination. Guessing that it was morally wrong crime that at the time brought up some important issues, such as the Mooney influence or overpriced health coverage. My friend, you are absolutely correct. It is a little bit like that. We're likely to have... This is kind of like a parallel with the Israel-Palestine conflict. We have an issue. We don't fix the issue. We kind of judge the issue. We kind of mistreat the issue. And then the issue blows up in our fucking face, right? Everybody's got some sort of bad experience with their healthcare providers where it's like, my fucking God, I hate you people. I do. I had a hospital visit. Was it last year? Holy shit, does time fly. Yeah, I guess I want to say I had a hospital visit last year in about March that set me back God, it was $5,000. What the fuck do I pay the insurance premiums for? God, I must have been paying $100 a month at every paycheck for the fucking premiums. And I still owed $5,000. It was insane to me. And the max I could pay off from that shit, dude, I'm still getting calls from the debt collectors. I could barely pay off $3,000 of it. Holy shit, I'm still paying that off. That's insane. So, people have and my shit was, I was saying my shit, it wasn't that serious. No, it was pretty serious. My shit wasn't that dramatic compared to what some other people have to deal with in terms of like long-term care. Dude, if you've got cancer, God fucking bless you, right? If you've got some sort of a gastrointestinal disease that you have to keep seeing a doctor, God help you, because Lord knows your fucking insurance company won't, right? The number one cause of bankruptcy in America is health related. It is health insurance related. So Obamacare is pretty good reform. We probably need some minimum coverage standard that captures people who don't have insurance. Medicaid for all, baby. I don't know. Nobody wants to do it though. I remember having a conversation with Admiral Gibbs about it. That kind of like it was very telling when I had the conversation, because I asked him. I think I asked him about like people having access to health care, and he was basically like, oh well, if they can't afford their coverage, they should just die, just let them die. And it's like my very next question was like, are you Christian? And he's like, oh yeah, I'm totally Christian. That I can't think of anything more Christ-like. Just let the motherfucker die. It says that in the book of Matthew. Anyway, I'm going to be doing a bit more. I appreciate y'all tuning in. Namaste.